you do have a question out there, write it down, wave above your head, and we'll try to get it up here. One of the audience questions relates directly to that. For you two, why is this the proper place to put in the Constitution? As a follow-up, don't you trust the legislators to make the right decision? Larry Redmond, why don't you start with this?
Well, there are a combination of things here, but I think some historical context is very important to understand, and it's not a piece of history that speaks for the best of us. Over 36 years ago, the Clean Water Act was passed by the Congress that said we're going to clean up all the waters and make sure that our drinking water, that our natural resources were safe. Just a couple of years later, there was a Blue Ribbon Committee in Minnesota organized by then Governor Wendell Anderson that said, let's figure out what the proper role for the state in regards to cultural resources are. Well, what's happened during that time? In regards to water, the state, Linda's right, the state has not stepped up to the plate and taken care of those water resources. We are at a point right now where the Pollution Control Agency, our state entity, tells us that 40% of our waters in the state are contaminated to a point that they're closing beaches, telling people that they shouldn't eat the fish in them, shouldn't swim, and that number is growing. That contamination is expanding, preventing us from being able to use it for recreational purposes, in some ways threatening some drinking water issues, and also thwarting the development of business because of that water. On the same token, on our cultural resources, the public demand for those areas has not gone there. None of the goals that were established back in that 1974 report that have come forward. Now, why does that happen? I don't think it's because the legislature doesn't care about clean water or they don't care about the future of our culture. But it's because other pressing needs have continually put these things to the back of the line. Things that the state should be taking care of. And we got to focus on that. But these are iconic features of our state. These are things that define. Our license plates say that we're the land of 10,000 lakes. Our recreational, our economic development. We also have a cultural tradition in this state that we're very, very proud of. And what's going to happen in the future is that that's going to go away. We've got a chance here to put, for a 25-year period, to do some long-term planning to say that for simply $5 a month for the average Minnesota household, we can protect our water, we can protect our culture, protect our parks and trails, and that'll be safe. We fund it. We don't take it away from other funding areas. It'll be in place if we do that particular thing. So, by the way, we've amended the Constitution 119 times, by the way, in 150 years. You can only do it every 2 years. Do the math. We amend the Constitution a lot.
So, Dave Zettner, real quickly, on the second part of the question, do you not trust the legislators to do the right thing?
I don't know if the word trust is appropriate. I don't want to get into an anti-legislative rant, Don. In fact, if anything has happened to me over the last 4 to 5 years, working on this issue and being in St. Paul a lot, I have more respect than I've ever had for the difficult job that the men and women that represent us, that we elect, the tough choices that they're faced. And we've got some really good people, both in the Republican and the Democratic Party. What I would like to say is that this opportunity before us all, passed by the overwhelming majority of the members of our state Senate, of the members of our House, with leadership from Republicans, with leadership from Democrats, and when we talk about good government people who are in opposition, I would respectfully respond. We've got some very good government people who say, vote yes. Former Governor Wendell Anderson, former Governor Arne Carlson, almost our entire legislative delegation. So this, what could be more appropriate in a democracy than to look at a model that is not producing the results we need to produce to take care of our great state, to say, we'll give the opportunity to each and every voter on the 4th of November to give them a choice. I don't think that's bad government. That's good government.
Carrie Reed, do you have a response there?
Yeah, I guess I'd like to weigh in on this. I'd like to read you something here. And you know, just because I'm kind of portrayed here when we're on the no side, we're against puppies and babies and mom's apple pie, and I just want you to know that I'm a big user of the resource. We have 3 generations hunting at our hunting camp this year. I pheasant hunt, I grouse hunt. I 4 mornings a week in the summer. You can find me skating on the trail. I come up to Duluth and do the North Shore Inline. So I'm a big user of the resource. So I do understand this problem, and that's why I'm here today as more of a concerned citizen. But I'd like to read you this. The legislature finds that all Minnesotans share the responsibility to ensure wise stewardship of the state's environment and natural resources for the benefit of current citizens and future generations. Proper management of the state's environment and natural resources requires foresight, planning, and long-term activities that allow the state to preserve its high-quality environment and provide for use of its natural resources. The legislature also finds that to undertake these activities properly, a long-term, consistent, and stable source of funding must be provided. Now, who could be against that, right? I mean, that's truly what we want for the state of Minnesota. Well, folks, we passed this in 1988. That's the statute from the Legislative Commission on Minnesota Resources, the lottery money, and that's what it's for. And did we amend the Constitution? Yes, we did. In Section 14, we amend the Constitution and we talk about environment and we talk about these funds. So, folks, we have done this. 20 years ago we done this. And you know what? Today, only 6 cents out of every dollar goes to the resource. Now, in 2006, we redid LCMR and we made it LCCMR. But in my opinion, we did nothing. The money doesn't get there. And I think this is just another instance where we will do this and it will be the same as what we did 20 years ago. Where is that money and why is our environment better now than it was?
Dave Zettner had his hand up first.
Well, the history of LCMR is an interesting one. I worked on that campaign in 1988 and in the second campaign. And Governor Pawlenty appointed me to co-chair the reform that the senator just spoke of in 2006 of the LCMR that has created now a hybrid called the LCCMR, Legislative Citizens Commission on Minnesota Resources. Willard Munger, a famous Duluth legislator, that was his vision, if you guys remember. That's a very different concept than taking 0.3% and directly investing 1/3 in each of the subjects I just described. The money from the lottery goes into an endowment, like a college or university endowment, from which a percent is allocated to the environment. It's about 5% of the market value of the current level. It's a great asset to our state, but it generates about $20 million a year. It's not the be-all, end-all. It's an incredibly good tool. But in the face of a state budget that for a biennium is about $34 billion, about $17 billion a year, that allocates less than 1% to natural resources, it certainly is unrealistic to hang our hats on the Environmental Trust Fund, as important as it is. It's an apples and oranges kind of a distraction.
You know what? We need to move on quickly, Linda Runbeck.
Right. Talking about, I think what this amendment doesn't do, I mean, you mentioned $20 million, but actually, in actuality, $500 million every year is spent legislatively through the DNR and the PCA and for parks and trails and water and so on. So we're already spending $500 million a year, not mentioning what is spent on the arts, not mentioning the bonding bill. For example, the 2008 bonding bill, to take a look at that, there's $225 million spent on projects that could well be defined as arts or out of doors. So there's a tremendous amount of money. This amendment will raise $300 million a year for 25 years. So it's about $11 billion. And it will not go through the